when a cosmic portal rips through Elliot Harper's Brooklyn loft. A fierce alien queen named Zynia claims him as her fated partner in a galaxy-spanning war. Armed with only a glowing spoon, can he rise to save her world? Dive into their epic saga. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more thrilling tales and inspire us to create more. Elliot Harper was losing the battle against his coffee maker. Again, he slammed the machine with the back of his hand, muttering to himself, seriously, this thing's more useless than my ex's excuses. His apartment in Brooklyn was a mess, dirty dishes, pizza boxes stacked high, and the occasional unpaid bill peeking out from under a pile of old sketchbooks. The dim glow of his desk lamp did little to lighten the chaotic gloom of his cluttered loft, the hum of the city outside offering no real comfort. The coffee machine sputtered, then spit a weak trickle of brown liquid into the mug. Elliot sighed in defeat and reached for it, the steam rising in lazy spirals. He hadn't expected much from the night, just a quiet evening of sketching, pizza rolls, and whatever Netflix decided to throw at him. His hand was halfway to his mouth when a brilliant flash of light sliced through his loft, blinding him. A radiant portal split the air before him, cracking open reality like an egg. The light was so intense it made his skin tingle. Elliot's first instinct was to drop the mug. It clattered to the floor, spilling coffee everywhere. But he didn't move. His mind couldn't catch up with his senses. Out of the glowing rift, she appeared, Zynia. She was tall, impossibly beautiful, with silver eyes that seemed to reflect the entire universe. Her skin shimmered like stardust, her movements graceful and commanding. A battle-hardened alien queen, wearing armor that radiated power, yet her presence was delicate, as if she belonged to a world far beyond the grime of Brooklyn. Her voice trembled as she stepped forward. I am yours, human. Elliot's mouth went dry. What? Is this some kind of prank? He took a step back, shaking his head. Yeah, okay. Nice costume. But you're not getting my pizza rolls. Zynia's eyes narrowed, a spark of otherworldly fury flashing in them. But her hand reached out, brushing his arm with a feather-light touch. The contact was electric, pulling him in deeper than he ever expected. Her fingers, cold yet warm at the same time, held him in place. I'm not here for pizza, she said softly, her voice an unsettling mix of authority and something else. I'm here because of the Vion Oath, and now, your fate is bound to mine. Elliot blinked, unsure whether to run, scream, or laugh. Instead, he just stood there, frozen in a mix of fear and disbelief. Elliot barely had time to process what Zynia just said before the Varkos hit. The first one came through the broken window, crashing in with a roar. It was massive, its black armor gleaming like obsidian, claws scraping against the metal of Elliot's bookshelf. Zynia immediately dropped into a defensive stance, her hand glowing with an eerie blue light, a shimmering blade forming from thin air. Elliot's heart pounded, his thoughts racing. This can't be real. This cannot be happening right now. The Varkos soldier roared again, its eyes glowing red with malice. Elliot didn't have a plan, didn't have a weapon, just a spoon. He grabbed the first thing he could find, gripping it like a ridiculous weapon. But it was all he had. He stared at Zynia, expecting her to laugh, to mock him. Instead, her gaze locked onto him with a fierce intensity. Stay behind me, human, she commanded, her voice sharp. Elliot's hands shook, but he stood frozen, not sure if he was about to be slaughtered or if he had just joined a circus. Zynia's blade whipped through the air, a blur of light and sound, cutting down the Varkos soldier in a split second. But there were more coming. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. The next Varkos soldier stepped through the portal, a hulking mass of alien muscle and twisted metal. Elliot's heart skipped a beat, and before he knew it, Zynia was pulling him aside. Now, Elliot, she shouted. His mind caught up just in time. He swung the spoon with everything he had. It's a spoon. It's a spoon. It's a spoon. Miraculously, it flared with a sudden surge of energy, the spoon's handle glowing bright blue, and it slammed into the Varkos soldier's side. It didn't stop. The spoon actually cut through its armor. The Varkos soldier howled in pain, stumbling back, and for a split second, Elliot could have sworn he saw the reflection of his own shocked face in its armored chest. Zynia didn't wait. She was already charging, moving faster than Elliot could comprehend, finishing the fight with a lethal strike. The alien collapsed in a heap, its body turning to dust. Breathing heavily, Zynia turned back to Elliot. "You did well, but this is just the beginning." Elliot blinked, feeling both accomplished and completely out of his depth. "I just stabbed an alien with a spoon," he muttered, still trying to process the chaos. Zynia's lips twitched into a small smile. "Let's go. We're not safe here." The portal flared again, brighter this time. The Varkos were relentless. Zynia didn't waste a second. She pulled Elliot toward the glimmer disk of escape, a sleek, disk-like craft hovering just outside the loft. The portal behind them pulsed with a blinding light as the Varkos forces charged forward, their screeching war cries filling the air. The disk shimmered, a flash of radiant energy, before lifting off the ground with a hiss of power. Elliot's feet barely touched the floor as he was yanked aboard, heart racing. He barely registered the sleek, metallic interior of the ship before they were in the air, shooting through the open window, soaring above Brooklyn's skyline. Below, the city was bathed in the glow of streetlights, its quiet hum a stark contrast to the chaos they left behind. The sensation of flying was unlike anything he'd ever felt before, weightless, almost as if gravity no longer cared about them. Zynia, still gripping his arm, guided him to sit beside her. Her silver eyes were fixed on the sky, alert and calculating. "We're not safe yet. We need to go beyond their reach." Elliot nodded, his thoughts scattered. "She's not even breaking a sweat, and I'm about to have a heart attack. I thought we were going to talk about this Vion Oath thing." Her gaze flicked to him, and for a moment the cold queen softened. "I'll explain later. We don't have time." The craft was already picking up speed, the city now a blur below them. As they ascended, Elliot could feel the tension building. The hum of the disc intensified as Zynia's fingers tapped the control panel, weaving through starlit coordinates he couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, the craft jolted. A blast of energy shook them violently, sending Elliot crashing against the wall. He barely caught himself before the Varkos warships appeared on the horizon, closing in fast. Their engines screamed, and Elliot could hear their terrifying sound even through the craft's walls. "They're right behind us," Elliot shouted, adrenaline surging through him. Zynia's lips curled into a determined smile. "Then we'll have to outrun them." She spun the controls, and the disc plunged downward, skimming just above the rooftops. Elliot gripped the seat, his stomach dropping with every dip and dive. The Varkos were relentless, but Zynia was faster, more precise, her movements fluid, as if this was her second nature. The warships followed, but Zynia's glimmer disk was already gone, disappearing into the darkness of the night. Just like that, they were free, for now. The glimmer disk cut through the air like a streak of light, a sharp contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. Below them, the streets of Queens sprawled in a patchwork of neon signs, dimly lit alleyways, and the hum of distant traffic. But inside the ship, the air felt different, calm, almost surreal. Elliot sat in the back corner, trying to catch his breath. His hands still trembled from the adrenaline, and he couldn't quite shake the image of the Varkos soldiers from his mind. He ran a hand through his hair and glanced over at Zynia. She was calm, too calm. She sat in the pilot's seat, hands steady as she adjusted the craft's navigation system. "I'm not sure if she's terrifying or just completely at ease with this whole thing," Elliot thought. Zynia's eyes flicked over to him, sharp as ever, and for the first time since he met her, there was a flicker of something softer in them. A vulnerability, maybe. She took a deep breath, the glow from the control panel casting faint light over her angular features. "We're safe for now," she said, her voice soft but authoritative. "But we can't stay here long. The Varkos will track us." Elliot nodded, swallowing hard. He didn't have a plan. He didn't even know what was going on. One moment he was swearing at a coffee maker, the next he was fighting aliens. And yet, sitting here in the quiet of the ship, the distant hum of the engines lulling him into a strange sense of peace, he almost felt normal. Almost. Zynia's gaze softened, the usual ice in her expression melting just slightly. She turned in her seat, her long, silver hair cascading over her shoulders like liquid light. "You're doing better than I thought." Elliot snorted, trying to keep it light. "Oh sure. Just fought off a couple of aliens with a spoon. I'm basically the next superhero." Zynia didn't smile, but there was a brief spark of amusement in her eyes. "You were more than I expected." He cocked an eyebrow, leaning against the wall. "More than what exactly?" "A guy who can't even make coffee without blowing something up." Her lips curled up slightly. "More than just some man in a city. The Vion Oath binds us. It is a powerful connection, one I didn't expect, especially not from someone like you." Elliot's stomach churned. He had no idea what she meant by that, but her words hit a nerve. "You're saying I'm some kind of cosmic chosen one?" Zynia hesitated, her gaze flickering to the ship's window, then back to him. "It's not like that. But yes, the Vion Oath has chosen you, just as it chose me." She stood up, her boots clicking against the metallic floor as she walked toward the rear of the ship. She took out a small, alien device, a handheld tool that glowed faintly, and began to sketch something on the walls of the ship. Elliot stepped closer, curious. The device produced a soft, blue glow, lighting up symbols that looked like a mix of alien script and constellations. He watched, fascinated, as Zynia worked in silence. After a few moments, she turned to him, her eyes darker, more serious. "The Varkos are after more than just me, Elliot. They want everything. They will stop at nothing to see Astralis fall. And I don't want you to be a part of the danger." Elliot frowned. "So what? You just came to Earth to get me involved in this cosmic war?" "Because that's what it sounds like." Zynia took a step forward, her presence suddenly overwhelming. "The Vion Oath is more than a bond, Elliot. It's a promise, a vow that will change the fate of entire galaxies." She paused, her voice quiet. "I never expected to care about you, but I do." The words hit Elliot harder than he expected. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words didn't come. Instead, he just stared at her, trying to make sense of what he was feeling. The ship's engine hummed steadily, the only sound between them for a long moment. Finally, Elliot broke the silence. "Well, I don't know about galaxies, but I'm still trying to process the fact that I'm now some kind of alien's partner, and Sci-Fiing the universe. But if you're serious about this, and about us." Zynia didn't answer at first, but her small nod spoke volumes. The connection between them was undeniable now, stronger than the chaos that had pulled them together. And then, just as Elliot thought he could understand what was happening between them, the sudden blip of the ship's alert system snapped him out of his thoughts. The Varkos were getting closer. The danger wasn't over. Zynia turned back to the controls, her face hardening. "We need to go. Now." Elliot barely had time to adjust before the ship lurched forward, jerking them through space at a speed he couldn't even begin to comprehend. Zynia's fingers danced over the controls, pulling the craft into a sharp turn. The distant stars blurred into streaks of light, like 1,000 needles piercing the void. Elliot sat back, heart pounding, trying not to feel completely out of his depth. But Zynia, ever the stoic queen, was calm. Her silver eyes flicked toward him as she spoke, her voice as cool as the ship's interior. "You're going to need to be ready," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "If the Varkos catch up, you'll be forced to fight, and you need to know how." Elliot's mind raced. Fight? With a spoon? But his gaze landed on the glowing blue relic beside him, the same one that had pulsed with energy. When he touched it, the Vion Oath, a bond, a promise. He gritted his teeth and nodded. "I'm listening." Zynia stood, her movements fluid and graceful despite the confined space. She pulled out the glowing Starforged blade, the weapon flickering to life with an energy that crackled in the air. Follow my lead, she said. I'll teach you the basics, but the oath will guide you. For the next hour, the ship's cabin became their battlefield. Zynia demonstrated every strike with deadly precision, her blade cutting through the air with surgical accuracy. Her feet moved like a dancer's, gliding across the metallic floor. Elliot tried to mimic her movements, but his hands were clumsy, his body untrained. Still, Zynia was patient. She didn't mock him, just offered quiet instruction. Hold it like this, she said, showing him how to grip the star-forged blade. Your stance is everything. They sparred in silence. Zynia's strikes were swift, testing Elliot's reflexes. He stumbled back, barely managing to block one attack. Her voice rang out, sharp but not unkind. You need to trust your instincts. Let the oath fuel you. Elliot clenched his fists, focusing on the blade in his hand. The blue glow seemed to hum in response, just like when he had defended himself in the loft. For the first time, something clicked. His movements became smoother, more confident. He didn't feel like an amateur anymore. He felt like he was finally becoming a part of something bigger. Good, Zynia said, nodding approvingly as they both paused for a moment to catch their breath. You're learning faster than I expected. Just then, a shudder ran through the ship, the alert system blaring to life. The Varkos were closing in. There was no more time for training. We fight now, Zynia said, locking eyes with him. Elliot tightened his grip on the blade, heart pounding. But this time, he was ready. The citadel loomed ahead, a vast, floating structure suspended in the blackness of space. Its jagged edges gleamed with an ethereal glow, shifting in shades of blue and silver as the light from distant stars danced across its surface. From the ship's viewport, the size was overwhelming, easily the size of a small moon. Elliot's breath caught as the enormity of what they were about to enter sunk in. Welcome to the heart of Astralis, Zynia said, her voice steady as always, though there was something in her gaze that softened when she looked at the citadel. She was no longer just the warrior queen in front of him. She was something else, someone who had grown up in the shadow of this place, someone bound to its fate. This is where we'll make our stand. Elliot nodded, trying to steady his nerves. He hadn't realized just how much his life had changed in the last 48 hours. He went from a guy who couldn't get a decent cup of coffee to one who was flying into an alien stronghold, ready to take on an entire galaxy-threatening force. The gravity of it was enough to make his stomach tighten. The glimmer disk pierced through the citadel's energy shield with a slight shudder, entering the inner sanctum of the station. Inside, it was breathtaking. Crystal-like structures lined the corridors, and the air buzzed with a soft hum that felt alive. Ancient markings were etched into the walls, glowing faintly as if responding to the presence of a royal bloodline. Zynia led him down a long corridor, her steps confident. But there was a subtle weight in the air around her. I'll introduce you to the other oath-bearers, Zynia said, glancing over her shoulder at Elliot. They'll be the ones you'll fight alongside. The oath-bearers weren't like Zynia. They didn't carry the same air of elegance or calm. They were warriors, hardened by battles that spanned centuries. The first oath-bearer Elliot met was a towering alien with golden skin and angular features, whose eyes burned like the sun. He looked at Elliot with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. You're the human? The alien asked, his voice deep, like the rumble of thunder. Elliot straightened, trying to suppress the tremor in his voice. That's me. Zynia stepped forward, her voice firm. He is part of the Vion Oath now. Treat him with respect. There was a moment of silence. The air felt thick with unspoken words. But then the golden alien nodded. We'll see if he can back it up. Zynia turned back to Elliot, her eyes softer now. They're tough, but they fight for each other. You'll have to do the same. Before Elliot could respond, the citadel's alarm sounded, a shrill, bone-chilling noise that echoed through the halls. Zynia's expression hardened instantly. The Varkos have found us. The golden alien's eyes flared with energy. We don't have much time. Get ready? Elliot's heart pounded in his chest. He had trained with Zynia, but this was real. The battle was coming, and they would have to fight together to survive. With one last glance at Zynia, he nodded. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. Zynia's gaze locked onto him. "Then let's end this." In the distance, the low hum of battle began, and Elliot felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The Varkos were here, and they weren't levying without a fight. The Citadel had never felt more alive or more dangerous. The Varkos were on their way, and the sense of impending destruction hung heavy in the air. Elliot's heart raced, the weight of the impending battle sinking into his chest. Zynia stood beside him, her eyes narrowed, her posture tense but controlled. This was her realm. This was where she was supposed to be in control. But the Varkos weren't just attacking her kingdom. They were after everything, and they wouldn't stop until they had it all. "Are you ready?" Zynia's voice broke through Elliot's thoughts, steady and calm. He nodded, even though his nerves were on edge. "Ready? I don't even know what I'm doing with this thing." He looked down at the Starforged blade in his hand. It felt lighter than he expected, almost alive, like it was waiting for him to unlock its power. The oath had done something to him, something that made him feel like there was more to him than just the confused, coffee-deprived guy from Brooklyn. But was it enough? Would it be enough to stop the Varkos? "I'll be here," Zynia added, her gaze softer now, but with an intensity that couldn't be mistaken. "Trust the oath." Before Elliot could respond, the Citadel's alarm blared again, louder this time. The walls shook with the impact of enemy fire. A holographic map flickered to life, showing a massive Varkos fleet nearing their position. Zynia didn't wait for orders. She stepped forward, and Elliot followed, gripping his blade tightly. They moved down the metallic hallways of the Citadel, the echoes of their footsteps drowned by the chaos outside. As they reached the training chamber, they found the other oath-bearers already preparing for the fight. Some were meditating, others sharpening their weapons, but all of them looked battle-hardened. The room was filled with the scent of oiled metal and the tense energy of warriors, readying for the end. "They're here," Zynia said, her eyes flicking to the hologram again. The Varkos ships were closing in at an alarming rate. "We don't have much time." The first blast hit. The Citadel groaned, its outer walls buckling slightly under the Varkos' relentless barrage. Zynia's hand shot up, her voice commanding. "To the walls. Defend the Citadel." Elliot barely had time to process her words before the floor beneath them vibrated with the sound of incoming Varkos soldiers. The doors to the chamber slammed open, and the first wave of Varkos warriors stormed in, their armor dark and jagged, glowing with malevolent energy. Elliot's breath caught in his throat as the battle began. The first Varkos soldier lunged at him with impressive speed, a jagged blade aimed straight for his chest. Without thinking, Elliot raised his sword in defense, his movements clumsy but instinctual. The blade connected with the Varkos' weapon with a loud clash, sending shock waves up his arm. He barely kept his footing, but the Vion Oath seemed to hum through him, and suddenly he was stronger, faster. He twisted the sword and struck, disarming the Varkos soldier in one fluid motion. The soldier staggered back, and before it could react, Zynia was there. Her own blade sliced through the air, cutting down the Varkos in one swift strike. The room was filled with the sound of clashing steel and the unmistakable hum of alien energy weapons. The fight escalated quickly, the Varkos soldiers relentless, flooding into the chamber in waves. Elliot swung the Starforged blade again and again, his movements growing more confident as the Oath's power surged within him. The more he fought, the more he could feel it. The Oath was guiding him, pushing him forward. But it wasn't enough. The Varkos were overwhelming. For every soldier they defeated, two more took their place. Zynia's eyes met his, and in that instant, Elliot understood. This was more than just survival. It was a fight for everything they cared about. "Elliot," Zynia shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "We need to hold them off until the others can launch the counterattack. Stay with me. We can do this." A surge of determination coursed through him. He was no longer just a bystander in his own life. He was part of something bigger, something that could change the fate of worlds. As the next wave of Varkos charged forward, Elliot raised his blade high, ready to face whatever came next. With Zynia at his side, they rushed forward, their blades flashing in the dim light of the Citadel's corridors, cutting down the Varkos one by one. This was it. The battle had begun, and there was no turning back. The Citadel was alive with chaos, its once pristine halls now echoing with the sound of battle. The Varkos soldiers were relentless, charging in waves, their weapons clashing with the Oath-bearers' blades. Elliot's arms ached from the constant fighting, his hands slick with sweat and the alien blood that stained his blade. Yet with every swing, every strike, he felt the power of the Vion Oath surge through him, propelling him forward. Beside him, Zynia was a force of nature. Her movements were precise, her blade cutting through the Varkos soldiers with lethal grace. Each step she took was calculated, every action part of a larger plan to protect the Citadel and save Astralis. But even she could feel the strain. The Varkos' numbers were overwhelming, and their dark energy seemed to grow with each passing moment. "Stay close," Zynia shouted over the noise, her voice cutting through the din. "We need to hold the central core. If we lose it, the Citadel falls." Elliot nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. The oath had bound him to her, and in that moment there was no hesitation. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for her, for Astralis, for everything that had been torn apart by the Varkos' tyranny. They cut through the enemy ranks, moving in sync like an unstoppable force. Zynia's blade slashed through the air, disarming one soldier, while Elliot followed with a swift strike, cleaving another in two. The Varkos were relentless, but so were they. The battle was a blur of motion, flashing blades, and crackling energy as the Citadel's core chamber grew ever closer. And then, the ground shuddered. The Citadel's systems, already under strain, began to flicker. The alarm blared. They were running out of time. "We're not done yet," Zynia called, her voice unwavering despite the growing urgency. "Keep fighting, Elliot. We're almost there." But as they neared the heart of the Citadel, a shadow appeared at the entrance. The Varkos' overlord, Cryan, towering and terrible. His black armor gleamed with an otherworldly glow, and his eyes burned with the cold fire of destruction. "You think you can stop me, Queen?" Cryan's voice was a guttural growl, filled with pure malice. "Your bond with this mortal won't save you." Zynia's eyes flared with fury, but before she could respond, Cryan raised his weapon, an enormous blade of dark energy. The air around it warped, as if reality itself bent to the weapon's will. He swung it down in a devastating arc, forcing Zynia to block with her own blade. The clash of energy reverberating through the chamber. Elliot's heart raced. He had trained for this moment, but facing Cryan was like standing against the storm itself. He stepped forward, his hands trembling but resolute. "I'm not letting you take her," Elliot muttered under his breath. With a deep breath, Elliot charged, his star-forged blade glowing brightly as he rushed toward Cryan. The Varkos' overlord was powerful, but Elliot wasn't alone. Zynia's voice rang out, her tone sharp and commanding. "Now, Elliot, together." Elliot surged forward, his blade meeting Cryan's with a powerful crash. The force of it threw him back, but he held firm, pushing with all his strength. The oath hummed inside him, fueling his strike. With Zynia's help, they overpowered Cryan, their blades working in harmony, one light, one dark, but both powered by the same fierce love and determination. With a final, combined strike, they pierced through Cryan's defenses, his dark blade shattering with a sickening crack. The Varkos' overlord staggered, his mouth opening in a silent scream as he collapsed to the ground. The room fell silent. Zynia turned to Elliot, her eyes locked onto his with something deeper than mere gratitude, something that could only be understood by the bond they shared. "We did it." Her voice was soft, almost incredulous. But before they could process the weight of their victory, the Citadel's emergency systems kicked in, signaling the final countdown. The core was failing, and the station was going to collapse. "We have to go," Zynia said, her voice urgent. She grabbed Elliot's hand, pulling him toward the escape route. The Citadel was falling apart around them, Metal walls groaned as they rushed through the corridors. As they reached the final portal, Zynia stopped and turned to him, pressing a glowing pendant into his hand. "My heart stays with you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Always." Elliot clenched the pendant in his fist, his chest tightening with a mixture of love and sorrow. "I'll wait forever, Zynia. I promise." With one last lingering glance, Zynia stepped through the portal, disappearing into the fading light. Elliot stood there for a moment, the weight of her absence pressing down on him. But as the portal sealed shut, he held the pendant close. Its warmth a promise that she would return. The Citadel was gone, but their love, their bond, it would never be broken.